It's the story from the Midwest. Mr. and Mrs. Tomlinson lived on a lonely farm. They had one son whom they loved more than life itself. This is already sounding like the gospel story. He was everything to them, and they could not do enough to show him how much they loved him. From the day Harold was born, father and mother resolved that they would try to give him the very best education. They thought maybe he could do whatever he wanted. Maybe it was in law or in medicine, politics or in science, education or in religion. But Harold would have his chance. What could they do as poor farmers? What could they do? It cost money to send a lad to college, much more than the farm could yield. So right from the start, they began to save up. As a baby, they began to put away every spare amount possible. One night by the fireside, father said to mother, "I've decided to give up my tobacco. I'm done with it. Every time I'm tempted to send for a little bit more, I'll take that same money and put it in a vase on the mantelpiece." "All right, dear, then I'll give up my tea." She says, "It's just a little something, but I'm going to give it up. I'm going to give up and this." And they put their plan together, how every little time they wanted just something, they would put that money away. It's a bargain. They said, it's worth it. It's worth it every day of the year. So they made their compact, and the vase on the mantelpiece became their bank. Years rolled by. Hard work, patient toil, and desperate self-sacrifice. But they never complained. Oh, you just can't get away from the gospel story here. Dear Harold was the joy of their hearts. Then at last, the great day came when Harold was old enough to go to college. How proud they were of him, dressed in a fine new set of clothes. Mother wept over him at the thought of his going. Father went around with a heart like lead. And they parted. The last farewells were said, the kisses exchanged, and Harold was gone over the hills, far, far away. His leaving was very sad. They would not see him again for 5 years. Every penny that could be used for transportation was needed to keep the boy at college, so they didn't dare spend a single thing to bring him home for vacations or to visit him. 1 year passed, 2 years. Then one day, halfway through the second year, father said to mother, "I can't stand it any longer. I've got to see my boy. I can't take it. I've got to be close to him." "Oh, remember," she says, "remember, stay strong, how we need the money." "Oh," father said, I know, but I've put a plan together. I'll take the old farm cart, drive the whole way myself, sleep under haystacks at night. I can do it, and it won't cost us a thing." So he went over the hills and far away, driving on and on, weary into the late nights. His heart beating with an ever-growing joy at the thought of seeing Harold. After many days, he drew near the university town where Harold was at college. He could see in the distance the entrance, and even the horse seemed to freshen up with a sense of expectancy. So near now. Down the main boulevard toward the college buildings, it did seem to be a little funny now to be in the city, driving an old farm cart along a beautiful street, but he didn't care. He was thinking only of the joy of seeing Harold. Father's old head was bobbing from side to side, his keen eyes searching every group of laughing young people with one absorbing objective. "Where's Harold? Where is Harold? Look, look, look." Surely that must be Harold, coming out of the main entrance hall with a crowd of jolly, carefree young men and women around him. How smart he looked, so tall and handsome. Pride surged through the old man's heart. This was his own dear boy, grown to manhood, worth 1,000 times all the sacrifice he had made for him. "Harold!" he called out. High above the chatter and laughter rose the old man's cry. How eager it was, how full of overflowing of the Father's love. Everybody heard it. Everybody did, including Harold. Everybody looked to see the old farm cart in front of the college building. And they laughed. Harold heard it. He saw it. His face paled. Not a smile greeted the old man. Harold was in that moment of surprise ashamed. Ashamed of his story. His father, his college friends would discover he came from such a background. Harold. There was now a tinge of pain in the voice. Harold, don't you recognize me, my boy? He did, but he didn't want others to know. You've made a mistake, old man. You've made a mistake. Why don't you take that contraption out of here? Father's heart froze. It couldn't be true. Deathly pale, though, he turned the cart around, and amid the jeers of the onlookers, he drove away back over the same long road, on and on, stunned and crushed, scarcely able to raise his head. Mother eventually saw him coming and sensed at once something was wrong. He seemed 20 years older. Dismounting and never saying a word, he went into the dining room, sat down in the old armchair near the mantelpiece, where the vase of sacrifice still stood, a silent witness to the price of love. Knowing that something terrible must have happened, Mother went quietly about the house preparing a meal, hoping that he would soon recover. Standing at the counter in the kitchen, she heard an awful thud, a groan of anguish, and then silence. She ran in, and there on the hearth lay Father dead. Died of a broken heart, people would say. Killed because a son refused to recognize his father. So comes the Christmas story, the signal from heaven of a long-awaited sacrificial journey where we have been the object of their love. And the Christmas story pierces into the darkness. It's mundane as a baby born to a poor couple in Bethlehem. We can make that as romantic as we want to, but it wasn't then. And if we really think it through, it isn't now. And then to stand before Pilate and be condemned to a nondescript. For us, the cross is an object of reflection, but for them, they saw it every day. Wasn't anything special. But these two events, a babe born in a barn in Bethlehem and a Messiah claimed on the cross of Calvary, these two events have gripped our world, our community. But the question today is, will you allow them to grip your heart? Will you recognize the love of the Father through it? One more line from Desire of Ages. Oh, that today the human family would recognize that song. What song? The song that the angels sang. Glory to the newborn King. Peace on earth and mercy mild. God and sinners are reconciled. Joyful, all you nations rise. Join the triumph of the skies. And with the angelic host proclaim, Christ is born in Bethlehem. Hark, hark. Hark, the herald angels sing. Oh, that today the human family would recognize that song. The declaration then made, the note then struck, will swell in our hearts to the close of time and resound to the ends of the earth. God and me reconciled. Permanent, forever, I am free. Accept it, live it, share it. Amen.